to the just a word for the meeting. Please rise to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone.
Liberty and justice for all.
So welcome, everyone. Is there any public comment on the agenda items as they stand? Seeing none, thank you very much. Do we have any action items from the executive session? Mr. Lieutenant?
Madam Chairman, no, the executive session occurred prior to today's meeting. It began around 11:15, lasted until about 12. We dealt with an information session where the board was briefed on the topics, and we discussed deliberating on the personnel issue, and I informed the board of several litigation items. There's no action items. Thank you.
We have a report on the litigation matter?
Yes, for number 6, as you saw in the newspaper, the Commonwealth Court issued their decision. They returned the case back to Judge Angelos for him to begin hearings on whether or not the city has the ability to terminate us under the statute, and then secondly, if that were to occur, what about the other claims that other folks have made? So that's what the Commonwealth Court did. The authority filed an aliquot petition with the Supreme Court requesting that the court consider the issue now before Judge Angelos got started, hopefully to resolve the issue before we had to begin all of those hearings and all of those cases. That aliquot petition is pending. It's been answered by Aqua. I think it's been answered by the city, and I think we're going to hear from other people trying to intervene in that case too. There's no real timeline, but that petition it's not an automatic appeal. It's a request of the court to consider the issue now before Judge Angelos has his hearing. So if the aliquot petition is granted, they will review the narrow decision of the Commonwealth Court, and you can say yea or nay. But if the aliquot petition is denied, that simply means we just go back to Judge Angelos and we begin hearings in all those other cases. That's my report.
Any questions for
Question. Did you say there was no timeline for that process to occur?
No, it's not an automatic appeal that we have a right to automatically. Typically, people think of court cases where you go to the common pleas level and then you get a decision and an order and you have so many days to appeal to the next level. This is not that kind of request. We're asking the Supreme Court if they will hear the issue now because of its importance. Resolve it now before the case goes back to the Common Pleas Court with Judge Angelos. And because it's that kind of petition, there's no requirement on the court that they act within a certain period of time.
So now would be tomorrow?
Could be tomorrow, could be November 2022. Yes. Yes. Just as Commonwealth Court, had our case for 14 months maybe. I mean, I forget how long, possibly longer. The intervention of COVID and the closing of a lot of institutions didn't help that process. And you may recall that we had oral argument virtually through a Zoom sessions. But there's no requirement on the court to issue a decision within a certain time period.
any further questions? You have in front of you the chief financial report, and there's a report on borrowing. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, received and filed. You have in front of you the request, items 7B, C, and D, on the authorization of the borrowing for the refinancing. of the 2014 bonds and the 2019 bonds and capital projects bonds, and then the request to approve bond authorization resolution, and a third supplemental trust indenture is required. May I have a motion, please? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the three items?
I just want to make sure that we double check, especially item D, to make sure that whatever that we are taking supplementals will be sufficient for the 3-year period that we expect to spend money on various projects in the authority.
Well, I assume that we have...
So that would be, the question is there enough money in this issue to address all of the capital items that are currently on the list? The items that you're being asked to consider today are just the first step in this process. The items that are on the capital projects list that I think were submitted as part of this was $60 million?
A little bit less.
Right, so this would only cover half of that for now. However, we can amend the amount through this process. This is just step one that will authorize people to get working. We will probably prioritize some of the capital projects. You'll have the opportunity before the final borrowing and the final passage to amend this to include all of those projects. Traditionally, the amount that's in the issue initially is based upon what we've been able to accomplish each year. I think we have about $8 million in the current fund that's not yet been spent. And then this would be an additional 25 or 30? 25. So this would give us 33, but it's not the full 60 yet. So there are other things that we may add to it, some of which we talked about today, that we may change. But this just authorizes the professionals to start to move forward with this process, to do the due diligence, to get the information for the payoff. But the capital project that we actually pick may not get picked until after the bond issue closes. But if you're going to try to add more borrowing to it, that will be something that we can address at future meetings.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, and that process will take maybe about 2 months or give or take.
So what we've been hearing from the other parties here is we're looking at like a 60-day window where there are significant savings to us annually from this refinance. And we figure it's going to take about 60 days from now on until the actual closing on these bonds. We want to try to take advantage of historic low interest rates. When we tried to do this about a year ago when COVID first got started, that we resulted in some litigation brought by the then firm representing the city Greenberg Travel to try to stop us, which is why we had that short-term borrowing with Republic Bank. That was a 3-year loan. As part of the refinance we're proposing today, that will be converted into a 30-year loan and paid off.
There are no further questions. Can we have a roll call on that,
Mr. Andrew.
Yes.
Mr. Brand. Yes. Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Mrs. Lightson.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mr. McGinn. Okay. Mr. McGinn. You might still be on mute.
Yeah.
Mr. McGinn, unmute yourself.
Joe, we can't hear you.
How about now?
That works.
Okay.
How are you voting on the proposed borrowing?
Can you speak up a little bit? Yeah, you're going to vote on it?
Yes.
Okay.
What's your vote?
Yes or no?
Say that again.
Go ahead.
Your vote on section 7, B, C, and D for the borrowing. What's your vote?
Okay. My vote is yes.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera is not here. Mr. Shelton? Yes. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Under the Director of Engineering report, we have items A through D. May I have a motion to approve items A through D, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions on these items? Mr. Andrew?
Not a question, just an observation. Because this thing's over a year behind us, I think the 8A, the approved, the change for the number, I think at 1.25 or 1.25% increase over a year for this kind of climate is a very good number. We ought to be pleased with that. It's been held up a year, and for them to come back with only 1.25% increase over what it was this time a year ago, I think that was good for the authority.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, just quick. Is this also for the painting of that tank?
The change order Mr. Yurall spoke about was for tank number 7. There is item 8C is for a proposal for tank number 8. It's a different tank.
With tank payment, you have that issue as a past, right?
Correct.
Okay, maybe no roll call vote on this.
Mr. Andrew?
Yes,
Mr. Brandon?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Leitzel?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West? Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera not present. Mr. Shelton? Yes. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 9, we have 2 requests. Items A, on all color ribbon tank guides, and B, a request to approve the agreement with BTV Security. May I have a motion, please? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions on these 2 contracts?
Yes, we've had prior agreements with these individuals before, and these are all new entities.
We've had prior agreements with these individuals for various works that they perform for Chester Water Authority.
Any further questions? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Andrew?
yes,
Mr. Brandon?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Leitzel?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton? Yes. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I would like to call on Mr. Katang to address items 10A and 11A.
We would do those separately. 10A, I'm going to change the word payment to the word processing. We haven't heard back from the actuary yet. And we meet again in two weeks, so we would hope to have it by then. Then we can authorize the payment amount. But today, the action item for you would be the request to authorize the pension processing for Brian McEwen effective November 1st, 2021, which is his selected date of retirement.
May I have a motion just on that item, please, on 10A? Is there a second? Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please, on that?
Mr. Andrew?
yes,
Mr. Brandon?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Leitzel?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton? Yes. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Can I have a minute to answer Len's call? Len, you're on speaker at the meeting.
Thank you for coming.
We're on item 11A. We're about to begin then.
Thanks, Frank.
Frank, will you address 11A first?
Thank you. Item 11A, I will amend that slightly too. It's a request to authorize the preparation of a consulting agreement for The action would allow Mike and I to work with Brian to prepare a consolidated agreement after meeting with him for presentation to the board at our meeting in 2 weeks.
May I have a motion, or do you have a motion on that, please? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we need a roll call vote on that one as well.
Mr. Andrew.
Yes.
Mr. Brandon. Yes. Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Mrs. Lightsell.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mr. McGinn.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, to item 11B.
Are you going to address 11?
Yes, item 11B, I would change the word engage to renew. David Thompson has been providing digital internet consulting work for us since August of 2020. The rate is unchanged. The item 11B should say, request to renew David Thompson as a digital internet consultant at a rate of $5,000 per month for 6 months, subject to my review and approval.
Thank you. May I have a motion for that, please? Is there a second? Thank you, sir. Any questions on the contract? Seeing none, may I have another roll call vote?
Mr. Andrew.
Yes.
Mr. Brandon. Yes. Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Mrs. Lightsell.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mr. McGinn.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Do we have anything further from our committee?
Nothing else said.
Do we have any new business? The board cares to bring up? And the old business that we have addressed?
Madam Chairman, may I indicate for the record that we had an information session and an executive session yesterday with the board to review personal matters and litigation matter, specifically the Commonwealth Court case and the Al-Qaeda petition filed with the Supreme Court.
We're up to public comment. Do we have anyone from the public that would care to comment today? Hearing none, I may I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?